Hello, everyone, and welcome to the May edition of the D4APulse. I thank you all for joining me here. And today we have a very interesting topic, blockchain for law enforcement, problems and solutions. Somebody have some strange sound on the back. Please mute that somehow. The topic we're going to discuss today is certainly not an easy one, but absolutely urgent and timely to discuss. So, as everyone knows, cybercrime with its many faces is on the rise. And we all know about unprecedented burst of the cybercrimes during the pandemic times. And adequate response and maybe some preventive measures from the law enforcement agents and agencies are certainly needed. Thus, today I have a pleasure to welcome an extremely involved and knowledgeable panel and experts to discuss the existing problems and existing solutions to these problems from the blockchain perspective, how it can be implemented and used for the law enforcement. And I want to start, before we kick off the actual discussion, with a little time to introduce. So guys, please, Renata, you are our resident speaker of Democracy for All for already several years. So I would ask to go first, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm just so glad to be here with you. I wish we could all be gathering together in person, but unfortunately, it's not possible. Well, I'm a judge in São Paulo State Court, and I'm a researcher at the Blockchain Research Institute here in Brazil. And well, that's a subject that's really dear to my heart, due not only to everything that I work with, but also regarding to the improvements of the technology and all we can actually achieve with blockchain technology, and how can we manage all the obstacles that it comes along with the technology. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm really glad to meet Pamela and Pablo that I haven't met in person yet. I'm really glad to see Claudio and Vasilisa once again. I miss you guys, and I can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you, Renata. We miss you too, and really hope to see you very soon. Pamela, the word to you, please. Introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I am dialing in from Texas, over in the United States. I am the Vice President of Financial Investigations for CipherTrace. CipherTrace is a blockchain intelligence and analytics company, for those that aren't aware of us. And I engage with law enforcement on a regular basis from the utility of cryptocurrency in illicit activity and criminal activity out there. So I'm engaged in different types of cryptocurrency investigations that are around. And Renata, my paintings are Brazilian. So I just want you to know, I know, right? So I do have my Brazil representation today. So I'm very pleased to be here with everyone, and honored to meet both Pablo and Claudio as well.
Thank you, Pamela. Now, Claudio, another resident of the Democracy for All, constant speaker, supporter of the conference. Please, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Renata, so nice to see you again, even if it's virtually. Hope you can make it this year to the D4A. Would be nice to to spend some nice time. I'm Claudio. I manage a company called DLT Code. We work mostly in cybersecurity and also developing some DLT traceability application, mostly for detecting legal interception, a topic where Renata is a little bit more familiar with. And we work closely with training law enforcement in several capacities regarding traceability and cybercrime and similar. We deal a lot and we play around with those topics.
Thank you, Claudio. And finally, Pablo, a word to you. Welcome. It's the first time for you. I hope you will also keep up with us, as Pamela, I hope, as well. So a word to you now.
Many thanks, Vasilisa. Well, I appreciate your invitation to be here. Also, Claudio, who has also invited us. I'm very happy to be here, guys. It's my first time, as Vasilisa said. I'm working as the Director of Technology at the Anti-Phishing Working Group Europe. So best wishes from Barcelona, in a little town. I'm very near to Barcelona, and it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you very much. I'm sure we are going to tackle a very interesting topic, which is blockchain with for law enforcement. So many thanks, guys, for the invitation.
Well, I'm very, very happy that we are all here today. We have our 1 hour to discuss and have some fun. And let's jump on the first question. So blockchain is still much associated with crypto assets. And for this reason, I would like to kick off our discussion with a question related exactly to crypto, which has been praised and criticized for pretty much exactly the same thing, right? So on one hand, one can have become a self-content owner on his own money, especially as John McAfee always likes to say. And he can, send them to himself or to his friends or to anybody across borders, across wallets, across any jurisdictions, kind of preventing his own identity and privacy. But at the same time, the same thing and qualities open up doors for moving drug capital, support terrorism, and all the other horrible things, money laundering as a simplest of them, right? So in your opinion, guys, and experience, of course, what methods are currently used to detect and track such activities? And a bit more on top of that, and I think it's actually even more important, is where is the line, and if there is a line, which can distinguish and prevent intervention into transactions of ordinary customers? Taking into account again your different backgrounds, I honestly want Pamela to kick off on that question first, and then everybody feel free to jump in and add something which you think relevant.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to start with what I always start with, which is I would much rather investigate cryptocurrency transactions any day than cash transactions or traditional financial transactions. Cryptocurrency, much to the chagrin of people who maybe aren't big fans of cryptocurrency, actually provides more transparency than traditional financial transactions themselves. So one of the examples I like to give is, if I am, Banco Santander, and I receive a wire transfer from HSBC, all I know at Banco Santander is that wire came from HSBC. I don't know where that money was before. I don't know how that money got into HSBC. I can only go back what we would refer to in crypto one hop, right? I can only look one hop back. Whereas with cryptocurrency, I can continue to trace that money as long as I don't come into contact with what I would refer to as a centralized entity, right? Like a centralized exchange or dark market, anything like that that might take in crypto and hold it in escrow in some way, and then I lose the ability to trace through those entities themselves. So number one is crypto is oftentimes so much easier to investigate. Number two is whenever we talk about that line, and it is a very fine line, right, between privacy and maintaining law and order. What we are really looking at is, number one, if you've chosen to utilize a publicly available blockchain, you have chosen to publicize your transactions to the world, right? So that's number one. Number two is we at CipherTrace, and we are not the only, I'm very transparent and very direct. We're not the only blockchain analytics and intelligence company out there. There's several of us. I would say the top three. The top three are used by all law enforcement all around the world, right? So the tools are out there, the tools are available. And essentially what we are doing is we are only labeling addresses that belong to bad actors, darknet vendors, right? Ransomware actors, entities like that. And we are labeling addresses that belong to entities, crypto entities that are in the crypto ecosystem, such as crypto exchanges, Bitcoin ATM operators, or cryptocurrency kiosk operators, hosted wallets, things of that nature. We are not going out and labeling on the blockchain that, address 123, Bitcoin address 123XYZ belongs to Pamela Clegg, right? We don't label individual usage unless those individuals are put on the sanctions list. Then we label them because they have now been sanctioned, right? So we do respect privacy of the users of cryptocurrency. At the same time, we believe that it is possible to also identify and investigate criminal use of cryptocurrency and successfully carry out those investigations, right? So it is a very fine line, but we believe that we walk it pretty well, and we don't veer into one way or the other, right? So I'll let others chime in on that.
Yeah, I invite as well. I mean, guys, if you have anything to add, please.
Okay, I'll just jump into that because I just love this subject so much. Today, we see a very strong usage of crypto for enterprises. We see like MicroStrategy actually declaring they're buying crypto and having it into their balances and things like that. And those are known actions. And when you talk about crime activity, we are talking about a way of proceduring. So when we talk about a ransomware, we are not only talking about crypto transfer from A to B, we're talking about an entire context of criminal activity that actually uses crypto as a part of the activity.
Just a tool.
So, what?
Just a tool, basically.
Yeah. So the thing is, what the state actually forbids is for this action of hijacking your data, cryptographing your data, and then asking for money. If this money is paid into crypto, it's only a way of actually paying for that ransomware. It doesn't matter if you're going to pay it with money or with a piece of art or something like that, and you're going to declare it in another way. If you're going to try to obfuscate the origin of this resource. The thing is, we have to pay attention to the context where these transactions are built upon. And I agree with Pamela, when we have the labeling of suspicious addresses and the ones that are actually public, we can evaluate more precisely the context where these transactions are actually built upon. For instance, like for money laundering, you're going to look for wallets for addresses that are sending money to other places, and if that money comes back or not, and things like that. And if you look for the numbers of public of criminal activity related addresses, they're not so expressive, only a very small number of addresses, right, Pamela? Just please correct me if I'm saying something wrong, because so we are not looking to interfere with people's privacies. Rather than that, we just want to avoid crime. And we must be very aware that crypto actually makes it really easy to transfer a lot of money very fast on a borderless environment. And we got to be able to do that.
Yeah, so I agree very much, Renata, on and Pamela as well, that crypto actually makes a lot more transparent the crime numbers than actual assets where you can move art around or you can move normal accounts for other people and so on. So you have a lot clearer numbers on actually what crime is. It doesn't make it harder to trace. In a certain way, the more technology evolves, the easier is to get all these things. But as everything, that implies technology, and sometimes this type of technologies are very much intrusive. If you get the amount of ISPs, the internet providers in the world, and you would just say, let's investigate what comes out in and out of each connection, because even if it's, let's say you have a good cryptography on it, you can still investigate the channel and see that actually there's a connection to a blockchain node or a crypto node or whatsoever, and see that actually our packages coming in and out, and you can actually pinpoint all the crypto users in the world in that manner. And by the number of transactions that they are making, and the timestamp in itself, you could actually see what's actually happening and where everything is coming from. But that would be a very big intrusion. So as everything, that's innovation it does not occur in a vacuum. It has to come with a lot of regulation, and public regulation is not always the best in terms of technology and innovation. Half of the time it stops innovation, the other half it drives it forward. When we try to make laws to regulate all this, we usually stop innovation. When we create like the CBCAT or similar, when we create institutions to support these innovations from a public policy point of view, we drive it forward. But that comes with politics, that comes with a lot of inherited, let's say, doubts that we have, and where it's going to go, and how is this impact me politically, and so on. So there are always this type of issues that are going to block everything. What is true is that all these technology events are transforming everything, and the risks on all this traceability with all the data, blockchain and advertising and otherwise, we are on a certain point where even Orwell wouldn't imagine it. Where could all this go? And it looks like we're going every day faster to a very big technology dystopia. When you see it from a technology point of view, when you actually understand the technology, and when you have friends like Renata and some other interesting lawyers and judges that explain to you the more law part of the thing, it's kind of scary. It's actually kind of scary and worrying, because with technology, all this is, as you said, it's cross-border, and good public policy and equitable law enforcement, and all these policies are very hard to bring forward. They're slow, they're very much inefficient, and you have the other issue that sometimes law enforcement professional, IT professional, and lawmakers in general don't agree upon most of the things. They look at each other like someone that's coming to take out my business and my work, like very intrusive. Like you're not a legal professional, yeah, but it's all technology, and you're not technology professional, and you always end up in these discussions that basically make everything harder to put it back into its rightful course. You can look at technology and how we advanced from building the first plane to landing to the moon, and what the technology that we have today. And 50 years ago, we said, wow, this technology could not advance anymore. And now they were thinking, where is the technology going to bring us? Well, with blockchain happens the same. So the applications are infinite, because our own nature, we want to be secure, we want to be able to trace things, we want to increase our well-being through all this.
Thank you, Claudio. I invite Pablo to add anything
if I may jump in. I'm very happy to be here, I have to tell you, because I'm learning many things. I have to say that it's wonderful to have a judge in this kind of conversation, because usually there's a gap between the technical side and the legal side. So it's very important to mix these things.
Card for such conversations.
So it's a very good opportunity to learn from you guys. I have heard many interesting things from Pamela, who was talking about the sanctions that we have to apply to the guys who are using blockchain. And then I'm very aligned with Claudio, who has been talking about this the need of regulation. And my feeling, and I'm not coming from the legal side, but from the technical side, is that there is a lack of standardization, along with a lack of the need to find an ontology to tackle the different kind of crimes. So that's the problem we have to face nowadays. I understand that Europe is trying, I'm talking about Europe because it's where I live. Maybe in the States is happening something similar, but there is a real challenge in order to try to find common regulations among the EU member states in order to find this common ontology that has to be applied to all these members, and also this standard that should be used by, I would say, by all over the world, but at least in Europe, we need this standardization to face these crimes that they have not perimeters. So as we don't have perimeters, there's a need to find a common regulation all over the world. And this is very difficult to achieve and is a big challenge that we have to face.
Certainly. So, I mean, we will definitely jump on that standardization question going forward to the with our discussion. But before, Pamela, you wanted to say something, or Ed? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just laughing a little bit while Claudio and Pablo are talking, because just before this panel talking about regulation, I testified before European Parliament on MiCA as one of the experts talking about AML regulation for cryptocurrencies. And I would just say I completely agree with both sides, both points of view. I will say that I think regulators, to make you feel a little better, regulators are at least now reaching out to the experts, and they're not trying to just take everything on themselves. So they are at least gathering opinions, and they are gathering insights from the industry itself. So hopefully that will make you feel a little bit better. I just had to say that because I was just testifying like 10 minutes ago, and I left to jump over here to do the panel. So we are seeing those efforts. And so that should hopefully make you feel a little bit better. But I will say that also when we talk about regulatory challenges, whenever we see cryptocurrency increase in value and price and adoption, it is actually when we see some type of institution that is a regulated institution adopt cryptocurrency, right? So we don't see Bitcoin become more popular when ransomware actors are using it. We see it become more popular when some regulated entity such as JP Morgan or one of the larger Asia banks, right, adopts cryptocurrency. Then we see the interest, and we see the interest in cryptocurrency increase exponentially when that happens. So regulation, the right regulation, right, will actually bring additional buyers, investors, and individuals to the market, because they are actually looking for that confidence. They're looking for that security that they can invest in a market that is regulated in a way. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel pretty much like that here in Brazil, because we still have very little regulation on the topic. We haven't got an official regulation for the entire cryptocurrency market yet. And I feel that there are actually a lot of businesses that have been running actually internationally, and that aren't being offered to Brazilians because we haven't got regulation. So actually we are preventing from making businesses while we don't have regulation.
The other jurisdictions where they feel more safe.
Yes.
And they know the rules of the game.
Yes, and now we start talking about like regulation arbitrage, where people are actually choosing the places where we've got like clear regulation and a fertile ground for innovation, where they can find just both universes together on the regulation space. It actually fructifies. Like, I know Brazil's far from being Switzerland, but like Crypto Valley is a place where you can see a lot of businesses fructifying. When we see like Catalonia and Barcelona and Girona with the whole initiatives they've been bringing along with blockchain, not only cryptocurrencies, it's amazing to see how business can actually fructify in those spaces where there's regulatory safety.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Renate, and I think that's exactly building on Pamela's point and your point. It's important when business and policymakers, lawmakers working hand in hand. And it's not that one thing that they can live without another. It actually should be a supportive, like cooperative job to do, so to arrive to certain like nice point eventually. But again, the time is going, and we have some more interesting questions to discuss. And now I want to put aside the crypto assets a little bit, and turn into other applications of blockchain here. So law enforcement agencies process a lot of personal and sometimes very sensitive data. as well as referring to the cases itself, right? So which are under investigation. So it can refer to evidence management, criminal records handling, crime victims' personal information, after all. Here, I think that cybercrime can also be very much intrusive, right? And it's not only about the let's say digital part of the world. It can be any type of crimes like happening on the ground. And from my perspective, again, blockchain technology qualities such as immutability, timestamping, high level of data security, well, interoperability potential seem to me like something very, very much relevant as a solution to these issues and everything, right? So, but I would like to hear from you, from our experts, how do you think blockchain can be integrated in this kind of data operational issues, right? And whether you can foresee blockchain to become a good tool for that. And I would like to start probably with Claudio here, and then as usually invite everyone to build on.
Well, there's a very important part in that, because the chain of custody, as it's called most of part of the world, it's very poor. So including in Europe, in most of the countries, I don't know in Brazil, Renata, but there are countries where a chain of custody maintained by speaking, nothing written, it's valid. So when you go into a judicial case with that kind of evidence, when you don't remember what you ate yesterday, much last year, and you try to explain the evidence that wasn't altered just because you say so, that creates a lot of issues. It is true that somehow that is being corrected, mostly because nowadays evidence changed a lot and it's mostly digital. So all around the world, that the different ISOs and similar said, okay, if you have a digital evidence, you need to make a hash, and all this hashing with the timestamp is gonna prove that it wasn't altered from when you got the evidence until you move it or it got into actually the court. So that's a wonderful thing. But that's not the only point. So the chain of custody, it's mandatory in everything, and it's something that always brings down or clarifies a lot of cases. But when you're talking about public administration and in general, not only law enforcement, which also traceability and authenticity are mandatory. Most of the countries, not all of them, I think, but I would say about 180 something, have the requirement of authenticity and traceability. If you put it on a technical side, if you have a server that gives a public to the public some kind of service and similar, you need to have full traceability of that part of the authenticity. That means that all the logs from the server have to be into another server with special measures and so on. If you put blockchain into play, you actually have a lot of savings in public administration. If we're talking about authenticity, identity, and similar, we get into even more interesting fields where in law enforcement, judicial system, and public servants in general had a very big issue. And it's fairly easy to integrate nowadays. There are a lot of very interesting projects worldwide, including Pablo's one, that are aiming towards that, and they are going to correct a lot of things in that manner. Most of all because myself and a few colleagues from the company do a lot of forensics work. We had to deal with some interesting things on that side and some interesting customers. And chain of custody, it's not always clear. You have also the issue that most of the evidence in a digital world are volatile. Either you capture an event where it actually happens, or you have no kind of traceability or a way to put to actually bring it to court. So imagine that someone listens to your phone and takes out pictures and similar and takes information every Thursday at 6 in the morning. You're not going to have a notary or a judge there to take note of what's going out of your phone. So there are some very interesting applications in terms of creating or turning around volatile evidence and turning it into non-volatile evidence with a timestamp and making it actually usable in court. One of the things that I kind of have passion for it and working a little bit inside and pending conversation with Renata regarding all this. It is a very interesting way to maintain what we have in terms of laws, in terms of regulation, and just making it better. This innovations are not going to change the judicial system. They're actually going to make it more affordable and reachable for everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Claudio. Very much agree on your points. And I mean, this comes from the perspective of both, especially like people want to trace what the government does or what the law enforcement does, how they perform actually when they're working on your personal case. I mean, especially when you're a victim, imagine this, and you have no news, no nothing, you have no idea what's going on. And I don't know what the punishment they deserve for that. But in general speaking, when you can trace that this was done by this person, it's timestamp, you can prove it, that's a great thing. And especially for the track record of the evidences itself, the chain of custody, of course. But I want to invite other panelists to add anything they think relevant. I already see Renata.
I can totally jump
Go
on.
ahead, please.
I'd like to hear from Pablo, because Claudio mentioned that Pablo's solution is actually working on that, because I'm taking my master's degree right now, and I will be writing a piece on proof, on blockchain-based proof used on judicial cases. Because that's exactly what Claudio said, like the chain of custody is a very relevant part of investigation and proof analysis and things like that. And there are actually some cases here in Brazil where we are seeing a few tools being used to preserve digital content and things like that, where they actually pay attention to the chain of custody. And because we won't have judges at 6 a.m. to take notes of contents and notaries and things like that, is that these tools are really relevant for us to actually be able to evaluate precisely how that proof was collected, how it was managed, and if it actually remains as the state of the fact that it plans to prove before a judge. So I can't actually think of a better solution than blockchain, just to really bring all those qualities into the judicial process. And actually, I had a chance to talk about Claudio in 2019 in Barcelona about that. And I think of cases that are underreported, such as violent cases and things like that, and where much of it is actually disappears during time. So blockchain would be really, really helpful in those situations.
So if I
And
may
I'm really
jump in.
excited about it. I'm really excited about it, as you can mostly see. So.
Okay, thank you. So, Claudio, thanks for the for mentioning your project. Yes, well, one of the things that we are doing at Anti-Phishing Working Group is we are participating in different projects, always regarding cybersecurity, and in this case, blockchain. So, one of the things that we are right now working on is a project that is called LawCard, that has been granted by the European Commission, and it aims not only to help law enforcement to tackle or to deal with the digital evidence, but also other entities who are involved in the investigation, because it's not only law enforcement, it's also judges, prosecutors, private investigators, and different targets, right? So this project, which is called LawCard, the aim of the project is to standardize the way digital forensic is handled from the collection of the evidence to the reporting of the evidence in a court of justice. And the added value of this project is by preserving the chain of custody using blockchain technology, which ensures the integrity of the digital evidence, but not only from a technical perspective, but also from a ethical perspective. That means that by using blockchain, we can also ensure the transparency of the digital evidence, and we can also foster trust. So we have these two added values, right? From the technical side, the integrity of the evidence, but also for the transparency and the trust of the evidence, which is much more complete than just keeping the hash. So it's a very interesting project. I invite you to have a look there. And well, the Commission is also granting other projects they aim to solve this lack of standardization and by implementing these new technologies. So I would be happy to talk about it later on if you want.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pablo. Pamela, do you have anything to add on the topic?
Sure, yeah. So I will say, I also do expert witness testimony for crypto. So peritaje, as we would call it in Latin America and in Spain. One of the interesting aspects that I find doing that is that the information that I pull off the blockchain is indisputable in court, right? And that's really, I think, what you guys would be going after with this tracking of the digital forensics piece is, you know, once you pull that information, the defendant can't deny that that transaction took place. They can't deny that that transaction, you know, went here, went there. And so that really is a huge aspect. I would say, especially for Pablo working on the project, one of the greatest difficulties in explaining this in court is that you have to understand the limitations of the judge and understanding the technology and understand the limitations if you have a jury. So if you have a jury, you have to be able to explain that to the jury in plain English or in plain Spanish or Portuguese, whatever you're speaking in, but in a way that they can understand the technology and why is a hash important? What does this mean? And how does this secure the evidence? So that's really something you might think about, almost providing a script for individuals that are going to use this technology so that they can explain that in an easy, understandable format in court. And then the other aspect I would say is that kudos, because I worked, you know, when I was an intelligence officer, I worked counter narcotics Latin America, and I've, you know, encountered more corruption than I would care to see in the court system. And, you know, how many times, well, those drugs were actually found here and those drugs weren't, and those drugs, oh, we actually found 600 kilos. No, we actually only found 300 kilos and 300 kilos disappeared, right? So that is most certainly something that I would like to see implemented sooner than later.
Very much agree. Thank you.
Believe me.
Right. I mean, again, time-wise, I wanted to jump on that point to which Pablo was already referring several times, so about standardization and partially maybe interoperability of different systems and blockchains, especially across borders, across different agencies, because I mean, in every country, laws are different. Not just that, I mean, approaches are different, timings and whatever, the way people act. Naturally, they use different systems, and now even they will be looking into, or they are already looking, depending on where we talk about America or Brazil or Europe, faster or slower, but they're adopting that, right? But they're going to build their own systems, blockchain based, with hashing, with providing this information and making sure that the traceability exists, it's immutable and everything. But again, I'm really doubting they're going to be, maybe you can correct me, I will hope for, but I really doubt it's going to be ever a universal freaking standard, which everybody will follow, like, you know, ABC. But even within Europe, it's hard. And I'm sure Pablo will explain to us everything right now. So it is crucial, though, that the systems somehow speak between themselves, right? So that the very fast actions can be taken when it's needed. And for this, the interoperability is also a very big issue. So taking into account everything I was saying, from your expertise, from the work you're doing with Lockhart, what is the current state of the system? Because you've been analyzing different countries, the approaches, different agencies. How far are we from at least some standards? What the standards could be? So, and everybody else can share their own experience after Pablo will just deep dive into the topic a little bit.
You know, Vasilisa, every night when I go to bed, I dream the same thing. It's the golden standard, you know? I want this golden standard for for everybody. But the truth is that we are far away from that. And of course, the platform, this project, it's going to last 3 years and it's going to finish the next year, 2022 on May. We aim to build this standard, but that doesn't mean that people will use it, because it's not going to, the Commission will not force the law enforcement to use this. That's the problem. We are building this standard. We're building this platform that is going to use blockchain to preserve the chain of custody. But the bureaucracy in Europe is quite difficult, you know. So yes, of course, I would love to have this golden standard, but I think we are far away from that. So the truth that now is we are building this platform based on different use cases. The architecture is already implemented, and we will see what happens after the end of the project. But I cannot ensure that this is going to be used by everyone. But at least what we expect is some main actors. So for example, let's say Europol. I don't know, but let's see if these main actors start using these kind of platforms. And once we find these main actors who are starting using these platforms, then there will be others. But we need these big institutions from Europe to use these platforms, these mechanisms, and then there will be more.
Thank you, Pablo. What about, like, maybe you ask what's happening there? Any steps towards standardizing actions? Pamela, can you maybe, if you have any idea on that?
No, not that I'm aware. I would say the golden, right, this golden standard, it's an issue across the industry. It's an issue when it comes to regulation. It's an issue when we're doing investigations, right? I can only track crypto to an exchange that's compliant in a jurisdiction that's compliant. If I end up going to, you know, X exchange, I won't call them out on here, but if I end up going to a certain exchange, I know I'm not getting anything and the money's lost forever, it goes into a black hole, right? So, I mean, it's an issue. As far as, I would say the greatest attempt to kind of standardize something would have to be something like the travel rule, or when we look at maybe in the AML world, we're looking at FATF, right? Setting recommendations, global recommendations. But aside from that, I don't know how we get to a global standard, unfortunately, with the various governments that are, you know, cooperative or not cooperative.
Unfortunately, I mean, yeah, it's like any cross-country relations, basically. If the countries will exchange the information between them, if it's blockchain related or I don't know, the paper related, doesn't really matter. It's finally about their like cross policies and foreign policies. So if that's exactly what you're saying. I mean, yes, we can track the money, or we can even block the money at a certain point if the exchange complies for some reasons. But then it will take you another maybe year or more to return this money to the official owner if they've been stolen, for example. And that will involve all the police, the local police, the police of the country where the resident comes from, and that's going to be a nightmare to lead.
I would say, what I would love to see utilize blockchain technology is the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty, right? Which is MLATs. That's how law enforcement communicates between countries. So basically an MLAT is if I have a subpoena in the United States, but for say a Spanish entity, and I want to subpoena their, you know, financial records or their transactional records or what have you, I can do that via a mutual legal assistance treaty, right? I can make that request to the Spanish authorities, who will then deliver that subpoena within the Spanish authority, right? So, but that process takes 6 months, 8 months. I don't know, Renata might know, but I mean, at least 6 months, sometimes a year, right? It depends. It's bureaucracy, right? It's all government bureaucracy. But if you could speed that up, because it just doesn't match the speed of the transactions, it doesn't match the speed of the data that's being exchanged. The data is exchanged simultaneous. I mean, it's instantaneous, right? So if we can speed up that process of the MLATs and speed up the process of the subpoenas and utilize blockchain technology to speed those up, right? That would provide you authority, certification, all that kind of good stuff, verification that it's coming from the right legal authority and whatnot. That would greatly assist law enforcement in these international investigations. Because let's be honest, investigations are no longer housed. I mean, they're not. The majority of investigations aren't housed by geographic borders, right? Almost all law enforcement investigations have some type of international nexus to them. And so we have to speed up that cooperation to be able to correspond and respond in a timely manner to the investigation.
Renata, do you have anything to add?
Well, I couldn't agree more, because today we've got to be worried about the timing. And this is, once again, law running after technology, because at the same time, when law takes a while, and when I say law, I mean all the legal enforcement actors, we work, and me as a judge, I work with guarantees. I have to assure the guarantees of a chain of custody, of due legal process of law, and things like that. But when it comes to investigation, we really have to speed things up. And sometimes I wonder what are the interests behind taking very long to reach to a certain point of investigation between those actors. It really gets me really worried when I simply know that maybe if we take too slow, certain cryptocurrency asset may be converted automatically on a decentralized exchange, and then it will just disappear on a mixer and something like that, and it's gone. And the investigation hasn't even started. So that is something that really worries me when we're talking about law enforcement and crime action. And just to mention something that Claudio has pointed out as the public administration and the usage of blockchain, we must not forget that corruption is also a crime. And blockchain can be used as a chain of custody for that kind of evidence. And we must also be aware that we could think of using blockchain evidence just to give transparency to public contracts and things like that. And I know that I've actually gone a little bit broader rather than your question, but it was something that I wanted to mention when Claudio talked about the public administration. That is something that we can bring this kind of evidence to our day-to-day lives and making these contracts a lot cheaper, a lot more transparent to people and things like that.
I think Claudio wants to say something.
No,
jump in there, Claudio. Just want to hear from you.
Renata, I was remembering a couple of projects, blockchain and artificial intelligence based in Europe. Well, no, actually one in Europe and one outside Europe. And they were both aiming towards getting all the information on public contracts, putting in a big crystal ball, shaking it a little bit with artificial intelligence, and detect all the corruption in public sector programs. They were both very successful in terms of getting results, but I didn't hear about them anymore. So yeah, public administration and blockchain are going to be a bit of friends and enemies for a little bit more of time until everybody finds their own place to put all the things together. International cooperation, as Pamela said, it's really complicated. I mean, you're talking about blockchain, but I know cases about asking whose Facebook account it is from Europe to US, and 8 months after, nobody knows. It's kind of speeding up right now, but it's still a big pain in the gut for a lot of investigators here, a lot of law enforcement and similar, which are always trying to find off-the-market tools to speed the things up just because nobody's cooperating with them. Same thing happens with blockchain. I mean, in the end, technology goes very fast. It's going to be very hard to get a golden standard. It's mostly because there are already standards in blockchain we still don't know they exist yet. So everybody's bringing on their own idea, their happy idea into this game. And we're starting to see a lot of blockchain observatories around that catalogs all these technologies and all these standards. And we have to think that we're gonna try to make a same standard to be able to control all these other technological standard in itself. I think there's gonna be a very long way to go there. And when we're gonna think that we finished and we're close, a new technology will emerge, which is the most fun part of all this thing. No? Training is mandatory in all this. Maybe before the standard and waiting for the standard, training and teaching and webinars like this, which are still very high level, but still gives you a very good insight of what's happening in the world, should be done more often. And should be shared a lot more between colleagues that are struggling in this field in particular.
Thank you. So yeah, Pablo, please go ahead.
Just a quick comment, because Claudia was mentioning something about training, and there is a thing that I would like to share with you, if you agree or not. Besides the fact that there is a lack of standardization, that's clear, but there is also a lack of standardization from the training side. I mean, the degree of preparation, the degree of knowledge of the people who's dealing with blockchain and these kind of things is different in all of the countries. So we should set a baseline degree of preparation to everyone who's dealing with these kind of things in order to be prepared and to share the same information and to speak the same language. That's just a thought that I wanted to share with you. But there are some projects that are trying to do these kind of things.
This is very relevant what you're saying, Pablo. And actually it was referring to exactly what I want to more or less like wrap up our discussion with, because that was also mentioned by Pamela, by Renata, by Claudia, by you just now during the whole conversation in different ways, but that's where we arrive. So yes, first of all, we have law enforcement, and then we come eventually to the court where we meet the judge, the best case scenario, which we have to educate, or sometimes we have basically a panel of the jury, right? The jury of 12 beautiful people who have never heard about blockchain or chain of custody or anything in the world. And maybe they just, I don't know, whatever they're interested in. And not only there, the same lots of people who working in the law enforcement itself, they have very little idea of the new technologies and how rapidly they evolve and what they're capable of or not sometimes. So I would like first maybe Renata to go on and jump on the topic. How ready is the system? I'm pretty much know what you're going to say, but still, and what we have to do to get more ready, right, in terms of education, whatever, so that actually when we receive certain evidences or we're working with the technology, people understand what they're doing. Because I mean, blockchain is not like, it's not simple as email, sending an email, right? You really need to understand why, right? We said the hashing, the timestamp. So you actually need to go through a little course before being able to, to understand what somebody is presenting to you, if it's the law enforcement agency or the lawyer of the other person, right? So because anybody will be appealing to these evidences, and you just, if you're the person who for the first time you hear about that, for you it's like whatever, it's a fairy tale, I don't know.
Okay, so I think education is a problem we've got in every aspect concerning law. So when it comes to technology that actually brings a shift on the way we think about how we do things today, and that's what blockchain invites us to do. And if we accept that invitation, we start thinking about intermediation and immutability, and being autonomous and responsible for our transactions and things like that. It's really a challenge to educate people. And just for you to have a picture in mind, in São Paulo, we've got like nearly 20 million lawsuits going on right now. We've got 18,000 judges, and we've got all sorts of cases going on. And on the beginning of March, I was looking for the number of cases on the court beyond the justices. where people appealed, and there were only 28 cases mentioning the word blockchain. So when we think about the universe, sometimes people can't understand the relevance of what we are dealing here. And at the same time, the number of conflicts haven't reached the courts in a way where the actors and the stakeholders look for it and think, hey, this is important. Okay, I am a voice, I'm a very active voice in this, and I've been teaching and teaching and teaching, and lawyers are getting experienced. And that also enriches the environment where we are dealing with the discussions concerning the technology. But from the perspective of a judge who brings the case as the lawyers, so it's really important for the lawyers to really study what they have in front of them. And they have to look for webinars as this one that it's really relevant. And there's a lot of content available for free on the internet, and there are courses and things like that, but they really have to bring it really like a step-by-step instruction, even suggesting, okay, so you should try this hash converter here, see what happens when you type your name with all capitals, and then type your name again only with one capital letter, and see what you've got. So it's just one result on a SHA-256 standard, and that's really hard to get another one exactly like this one on a trillion proportion. So you just have to be very like step-by-step instruction and showing things for them, and that's been really helpful. I've been getting very good results by using that approach.
I think there's a base problem here about technology and law enforcement and judicial system when it comes to studying and evolving. Because in technology, we are very dynamic, and it's very easy for us to do trial and error a lot. But you cannot do that in the judicial system. So maybe instead of looking at technology, there should always be a look back on things, and because each language has several dictionaries, has one specific for law enforcement, another one for the judicial system, another one for economics, and another one for common language, and so on. And I see in a few languages that, for example, you can find terms like HLR and VLR, which refer to the registers on the telephone antennas. They're very regulated, and you have these judicial dictionaries, VLEX usually, were very well defined. So a lawyer can go there, read it, and understand it. But all the new things are not there. Not even the word hash. In most of the legal dictionaries that I saw, it doesn't exist. And it's something that's been using in legal court for many years already. And a hashing process is a very common process nowadays when it comes to the judicial system. So there's a part there in this evolution where we don't need to look just forward, we need to look back as well. Because, as I said, in technology, it's very easy for us to do trial and error, break things, put them again together, whatsoever. But when you come to human sciences, it's not like that, and judicial system either. So you need, in my point of view, you need to update all these old books and all these old procedures to include the new things. And it's not that hard. And it needs the first car, it need you need the first people trained and so on. But all these people that were doing this work, linguistics in different type, they need their job back.
Good point. Pamela, do you want to build anything on?
Yeah, sure. I would just add that I run a lot of training courses. I run 2 certification courses that CipherTrace teaches. I would say one of the important things also is that they need to look at the source of their information, just like we have to do with the news now, right? Throw around the term fake news. We have to look at the source. We have to look at where that information is coming from. That does play a huge role. There is a lot of information available on the topic, but not all of it is accurate and correct, right? So we want to make sure that they're looking at the right information. And then I do that in my training, Renata, is I show them a hash, right? I show them, look, if I type in my name lowercase, this is what you get. If I type in my name uppercase, this is what you get, right? This is part of the inherent security of blockchain, right? This is an important concept to understand. And I think that does help them to understand how that information, how that security works.
Thank you. Well, Pablo, I guess maybe you can, because you're already mentioning that, maybe you will refer to something different, but I think you will again talk about standardization exactly of the education we're given to the people, because there should be some ways which you definitely should include in this basic program. That's already should be in the basic literature, as was said, maybe even for university studies, like just a class on the new technologies, so that where blockchain, but AI and all the other technologies should be already included because people have to operate with them. But anyways, I think feel free to build whatever you want.
Well, now I'm thinking, where are the boundaries about this training? I mean, for example, you have to think in Spain, we have how many law enforcement? 3, 4, 5. Each of them are using different good practices. All of them are good practices, but each of them is using different good practices to handle this digital evidence or whatever we want to use. So maybe one possible first step is to these big institutions, these global institutions, they should try to implement a regulation, but mandatory, you know. I mean, instead of saying, okay, guys, you will use this, you can use the best practice that you want to use. Let's say, no, guys, you must use this ontology, these standards, and these rules. If this is not mandatory, my feeling is we are going to keep playing the same game for many years, and it's going to be different, always different practices, and it's going to be mixed everywhere. So I think that these global institutions should start to promote these mandatory frameworks.
Well, I agree with you that sometimes it's just a matter of somebody taking the decision and enforcing it a little bit on the rest. But I think that the issue here is that those who have to take this decision are themselves not yet sure about what they're dealing with. And that's why, and because they're not really learning in depth, and they're like, here, I hear something there. They're still like very accurate about, next steps. But we will see what's going on. Anyways, guys, we're already a bit out of time, so I would invite you to do any closing remarks for our audience. We're not even capable of taking any questions, so sorry for that. But anyway, everybody, Renata, Pamela, Claudio, Pablo, thank you very much. So closing remarks for you guys now.
Okay, I'll start. Renata, all the lawyers should actually have to learn programming. If everything is going to smart contracts, lawyers should know how to program.
I totally agree with you, Claudio. Totally. Actually, I've been trying to code myself. I've taken a Solidity course so that I can actually understand where things are coming from and going to, and what does that mean. And that's something that I've been telling people a lot. Okay, you want to work with this, you got to learn what you're dealing with. So you got to learn how to speak the computer's language. And that's pretty much something really important to me. But I don't think that's really necessary for you to work with crypto-related cases, It is a good advantage, but it's a good quality, it's desirable quality, but you don't need actually to have that to work with crypto-related cases. But once again, this is a closing remark. It was amazing to be with you here. It was very nice to meet you, Pamela. It was very nice to meet you, Pablo. It's really great to see you again, Vasilisa and Claudio. I can't wait to meet you all in person as soon as this pandemic just leaves us and goes away. It was amazing. I've learned so much from you guys. I can't thank you enough for all the ideas shared with me today. And thank to everyone watching as well.
I would say also, I agree with Renata, and my closing remark would be hire the right experts, right? You know, I find if you work a cryptocurrency case, I work with a lot of private law firms, you're gonna learn by working a case with me. I'm gonna teach you, right? So hire the right cryptocurrency experts, hire the right blockchain experts if you're working a case on blockchain. I mean, whatever it is, seek out people who know more than you do. I do that on a regular basis. I steal information from all of you guys, right? I already have some comments I'm going to include in a panel that I have in an hour and a half from this panel. So I always take great information from all sources that are, you know, valid, respectable sources. So I thank you very much for your ideas, and it was a pleasure to be here today. Thanks.
As my colleagues, many thanks for these invitations. It was my first time, hope not the last one. I have to tell you, Claudio, maybe Renata has to learn something about programming, but us, from the technical side, maybe we should learn something about the legal perspective. So it's the other way around, you know? So we need to bridge this gap. So guys, many thanks for the invitation to be here. It has been a great pleasure, and also for the attendees, many thanks.
Well, thank you once again, everybody. I mean, it was great to having you here in the D4A panel, and I really hope to see you all in Barcelona in November, in 11th and 12th, in person. I really hope Pamela, Renata, well, with public audio, it's much easier. They're already there. But for you, I hope you will take this travel and you bring in your experience to our stage again, and you will enjoy the event. I thank a lot our audience for being with us. Next month, we're going to be with some new topic. We will see what it's going to be. So have a wonderful day ahead. And thank you for joining me today.